What is going on, everyone? Today we have the Aorus Master version of the 5070. This has got 12 gigabytes of VRAM, and we're going to be checking it out today to see how it runs on this title. We have it paired today with an AMD 9800X3D and 32 gigabytes of DDR5 memory. If you are new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have your subscription. And if you're not new here, thanks for coming back. I appreciate it. All right, what's going on, everyone? Today we are at 1440p. We have the RTX 5070. This is the Aorus Master version by Gigabyte. And we've got 12 gigs of VRAM on this card, and we're pairing it today with a 9800X3D. All right, so we're just going to stick around in this like opening area. The game kind of starts with these doors up here, and everything in there kills you. So it'll be pretty hard to test, but you know, for the most part, you're going to get a little bit better understanding of what this title can perform like with this card out here, because you've got a little bit more distant objects. It's kind of a little bit tougher to run than like the inside stuff. So once you see this test, you'll have a pretty good idea what to expect for the remainder of the game. All right, we have our metrics on the left. We have our PCL on the right, the top right, that post-compute latency. That's going to tell us what our latency is as we go through this test. So let's just jump down here, and we are on the medium settings right now. So what you just saw was medium. We're going to go up to high. Go ahead and hit accept on that, and then we're going to keep going with the test. All right, so we just need to keep an eye on our VRAM, because we want to hopefully have enough VRAM left over to do some frame generation if we can get this base frame rate high enough. Again, we're at 1440p. So 74, 76 FPS here. PCL is right around 55. That's not bad at all. All right, so let's just keep on going. I believe we'd be able to do a little bit better than that, though. All right, so let's go up to epic settings. So this is all natural, no upscaling. Epic settings with no ray tracing is 60 FPS. Right there at it, at least. So VRAM allocations under control, 9.8. Yeah, so this is turning out to be a pretty nice experience. Now, we don't have any ray tracing turned on. So I'm going to kick that ray tracing on to see what we need to do as far as DLSS goes, because at this current resolution, we don't really need DLSS to come in and save the day. We're already at 60. Of course, with ray tracing, you're going to need to use that in conjunction with DLSS. So let's go ahead and turn that ray tracing on and see what it looks like without any sort of DLSS upscaling. Just how bad did it get? All right, give it a minute. It kind of has a time to think about it. All right, so still pretty nice. I mean, we're at 47, 46 FPS here, 43. So I'm pretty confident. Oh, big stutter there. That's okay, though. Usually when I'm changing settings, it tends to stutter a little bit. Once you start playing the game, it doesn't at all. I haven't experienced anything wrong with this game at all as far as a performance aspect goes. It's just really hard to play. Everything kills you. All right, so yeah, we're at 44 FPS, 46. All right, so let's just keep going. PCL's a little high right now, so let's just keep going and come over here and turn on some scaling. So we're going to go over to DLSS. We're on an NVIDIA card, so that's going to help our PCL. Let's go ahead and apply that, and it's going to help our FPS. So that gives us a 68, 66 lift. PCL is nice. It's down to about 60. I am on a controller. This game supports many controllers, even has the PlayStation prompts, which is such a nice thing to see. I wish more companies built that into the game. But yeah, we are at 70 FPS here with quality DLSS and ray tracing. So we don't need any frame generation at the moment. But if you did want to get a little bit better PCL, this is kind of where I would play it. Just, you know, FYI. If you wanted a little bit better PCL, a lower latency, you could rely on your DLSS to come in and help that out. So, you know, this game looks great at quality and balanced. I don't like going beyond balanced at 1440. I think it starts to sort of degrade a little bit, but that does get your PCL down to about 54 milliseconds and a frame rate of about 85. So your VRAM allocation is 9.2. And everything looks nice and smooth. A little micro stutter there, you don't even feel it, but our 1% lows are still above 60. 0.1% lows, of course, those are reflected in those little micro stutters. Those are at 23, but again, you don't really feel that. It's coming up as the setting is being left alone, and that tends to be in a lot of titles. Once you leave the settings alone, your performance starts to get a little bit more balanced out. All right, so right here, PCL at 50, that's what I always aim for. Yeah, so this is a nice way to play it here. Now, if you did want to see what frame generation could do, now that we have a nice high frame rate with a low PCL, we could kick on some frame generation. And I say all this knowing that this is not a game that you need 138 FPS in, but for what it's worth, I just like to show everybody everything because these are all it's all just information. It's not a recommendation. I would never be able to do that because everyone's play style is completely different and everyone's tolerance for stuff like latency is completely different. Some people love frame generation. They don't care if it adds latency. Some people never use it and hate it. So, you know, I can't make everybody happy. All I can do is show you what the settings do. All right, so 128 FPS here. PCL is lower at 34 milliseconds, and everything seems like it is a buttery smooth experience. I mean, this is a really, really nicely optimized title. It runs great, and I think that this is a good card for it. Let's turn on some multi-frame generation. Come down here and see what that will do for us. Just go ahead and complete this little 1440p section. And we were right there at 200 FPS. I mean, this is a great experience. You've got a nice background frame rate that keeps your PCL under control. You're at 32 milliseconds. And your frame generation is just icing on the cake. Your VRAM is nice and managed. Everything looks really good. It's not, nothing is like concerning me at all with this. Now, I do want to check out 4K. Because this is running pretty well, and potentially at 4K, we might be able to get away with, you know, getting some nice visuals with some concessions, of course. But remember, at 4K, going down to performance is actually not that bad at all. So I'm going to leave this on quality, and I'm going to go down to medium. So this will be medium with a quality DLSS setting. And we're going to leave frame generation off for now, just to get a base rate of what we can expect. And ray tracing is off. So this will be 4K with medium settings and DLSS set to quality, which still should look fantastic. All right, yes, we'd like to do that. All right, so this is 4K, medium, quality DLSS, no ray tracing, with no frame generation. And you're right there at 74 FPS, looking good as ever, nice and sharp, quality DLSS, even down to performance at 4K, looks quite good. So this would be a nice test to see if this is a 4K capable card on this title. But everything does look really good. It's nice and smooth. Everything looks great. Let's kick on some ray tracing. Now that is going to potentially, will definitely make us need to probably go up on our DLSS, but that's still not too bad. I mean, that gives us 56 FPS here. Now, I do have it paired with a pretty nice CPU. The 9800X3D is absolutely going to be able to keep up with everything this card's throwing at it, but at 4K, you don't necessarily need a 9800X3D. You can do your own research on that, but at 4K, you could probably get away with like a 14600K or a 7800X3D, something like that, and be just totally fine because your frames aren't fast enough for the CPU to start getting choked up because 4K is obviously harder to run for the GPU. So your GPU bottleneck, which is what you want. All right, so yeah, we are looking like 57 FPS. Let's just keep going into our settings here. Ray tracing is on. So with ray tracing on and DLSS set to balanced, let's check out what that looks like. Of course, we are still at the medium preset, so that's just something to keep in mind. All right, so that gives us a nice 67, 66, 65 FPS experience. No frame generation necessary. It does dip below 60 here and there, but nothing too bad. I think medium settings is a pretty nice expectation for this card at 4K, but we are going to push it a little further now that we can kind of determine that 60 FPS on medium is doable with these settings with that ray tracing turned on. All right, so let's just go up to, let's see, where is the stuff? Okay, so we got high and we've got epic left. So let's leave all this alone. Let's turn the ray tracing off. and go back to quality DLSS on high. So we're kind of starting over. So we're going to go quality DLSS, high preset, no frame gen, no ray tracing, and no, no ray tracing, no frame generation at 4K at quality DLSS. That gives us about 65 FPS. So that looks pretty good. Now, if we did kick on some ray tracing, we would likely need some more DLSS, but let's see what that looks like. Just trying to give you all the different options here. Okay, that gives you about 48, 47 FPS. Let's jump in and go down to, let's see, performance DLSS with that ray tracing set to on. And let's see what that does. All right, so performance DLSS, ray tracing is on at 4K. And we are looking about 64, 65 FPS here. I think we're going to be okay. I think you'll be able to do, obviously, some frame generation from here. You don't need it because you're comfortably above 60 at this high setting. But now what if we come in and do epic settings? All right, so epic settings will definitely need performance DLSS. So let's turn off ray tracing. Let's turn that back up to quality. So this would be quality DLSS at epic settings with no frame gen, no ray tracing at 4K. All right, yes, apply that. Now let's see where we're at. Okay, we are right under 60, just shy of it. All right, so 54 FPS, 55. So if you don't care about ray tracing, you can run this at epic settings with quality DLSS. So that's kind of nice. You know, if you don't really care about ray tracing, you could do it this way. So let's see what it looks like with ray tracing. All right, so with ray tracing, quality DLSS epic. All right. That gives us 42 FPS. Now from here, you could do some frame generation if you don't mind that. I certainly don't. When it's a slower title like this, it just kind of smooths the visuals out. Our PCL is a little high though, 98 milliseconds, a little too high for me, even on a controller. So I would probably come in and just say you're gonna need to run this thing at performance DLSS, epic settings, if you want that ray tracing to be turned on. Which who doesn't love some nice ray tracing? And that's going to give you right at 60 FPS. Now this is perfect for frame generating. This is exactly what I was hoping for. If you can get around 60 FPS, but you know, I'd say above 45, above 50 or so, depending on the title, but 60 is even better. So if we can get around 60 FPS, we'll be able to do some frame generation because our allocated VRAM is only 9.3. So we've got plenty of VRAM left over with 12 being on this card to kick on some frame generation. So let's do that now and see what we can do as far as like maxing this thing out. So 4K ray tracing, and we've got performance DLSS set to epic. Now performance DLSS on 4K is upscaling from 1080p, so it still looks really good. I wouldn't shy away from performance DLSS at all. All right, so let's turn on some frame generation. And let's jump over here and see what that does for us. So our PCL is about 38 milliseconds, 37, 40 milliseconds. Nice and responsive, feels really good. 100 FPS. Yep, this is a nice setting. I would probably play at this if I was on 4K. So you take a note that our VRAM did go up a little bit because we implemented frame generation. That's just what happens. So I really like to get to a nice playable point with DLSS before I turn on frame generation because DLSS will actually save you VRAM because it's lowering the background resolution. Therefore, it requires less VRAM. And then that VRAM that you have back from saving with DLSS, you can use to frame generate. So that's kind of the you know, up and down, the balance that you want to go for. All right, so 97, 98 FPS. Let's check out multi-frame generation and call it a day. We'll see what this looks like. This would be a nice way to end this video. You're at 143 FPS at 4K. PCL's at 40 milliseconds. VRAM allocations at 10.4. Still got a gig and a half left. Actually went down a little bit. That's nice. And yeah, our FPS is about, you know, between 130 and 150, depending on if it snags or not, obviously. And everything looks really phenomenal. This is a good card. Performance DLSS looks great at 4K. And yeah, this has kind of been the rundown of the 5070 on Cronos. If you like my stuff, please consider subscribing, especially if you're new here. With all that said, take it easy. Peace out.